we didn't believe he would go because this is a perfect timing for a coup. And most of the coup, like Gorbachev, remember he was in Crimea when they started the coup in Moscow. And in China, also very often happened, the Prime Minister Zhao Ziyang under Deng Xiaoping went to North Korea. And by the time he came back, he lost his premiership. I mean, it's most convenient because if you want to encourage everybody to do something, they want to make sure the enemy is not in that country, so they dare to do something. So this is of course, like you said, it's 99%. I mean, we are not insiders; we are outsiders. We have a lot of information, know a lot of friends. So what really happened is it's a perfect coup. Let's call it a perfect storm. We all suspected the fight is going to be at the plenary session, within the party's plenary session, about the 10th of October. That's what we all suspected. But what really happened is because he left the country, which we thought would never. I kind of debating because his character is very stubborn, and nobody can persuade him, especially when Putin is coming, because Putin, his admirer, his number one admirer is Putin. All right, so he would go by all means, and they have a secret pact from the Winter Olympic to really take action together. And Putin is putting pressure on him. Actually, Putin announced his trip 1 week earlier. He only announced his trip in China 2 days before the trip. All right. So meaning he wants to keep it confidential, and he does not want his enemy to have much time to prepare for his absence and to start a coup. So, but Putin was very, he didn't know the intricacy. So he had announced in Moscow a week earlier, and Xi Jinping sent his most closest confidant, Mr. Liu Zhenshu, is the head of the People's Congress. It's like your parliament is the head of Congress.
Yeah.
To go to Vladivostok almost for 4 days, talking with Putin to make all the detailed planning of how a whole bunch of new documents or how to support Putin. He's committed to support Putin. So they had to supply military and everything, military wear especially, and a label it meaning North Korea. All right. So that when they discover, so they place a lot of order to the Chinese defense industry and make sure that it types like a made in Korea, North Korea, the Democratic Republic of Korea. So that was there is nothing in Korea. I mean, there's nothing. They are so poor. They are so dirt poor. So anyway, there was a whole series of plans how to help them in every aspect. And so they had discussion, and Mr. Li actually followed Putin back to Moscow. And then from Moscow, again follow Putin to Uzbekistan to join that big meeting that Xi Jinping was planning. So Xi Jinping left Beijing on the 13th morning, I believe. First landed in Astana in Kazakhstan and made a whole bunch of agreement with the president, Tonen, right, Mr. Tonen, President Tonen, made a whole bunch, because Kazakhstan is most important. If you look at the map, Kazakhstan really go across from China all the way to Turkey, all right?
Right.
So from there you can, this is the most important part for the One Belt, One Road. So since the old president left under that Kazakhstan coup, Xi Jinping needs to make a new agreement under the blessing of Putin, because Putin has not been very cooperative. This whole Middle Asia, Central Asia, is the sphere of influence by Russia traditionally. So now, finally, Putin needs China's help, so he was willing to give them all the blessing. So Xi Jinping first went to Astana to make all that agreement, spend the 13th there. It takes about 6 hours to fly there. It's very far, from Beijing to Astana. It takes 6 hours. So, and then he spent that day working in Kazakhstan, and then flew into what's the name of Samarkand or something?
Samarkand, yeah.
Samarkand.
Yeah.
throw into some account to meet with Putin. And the minute they finished the meeting, he was supposed to stay and meet all the other Shanghai Cooperation people and stay for dinner. Suddenly, right after that meeting, they all rushed to the airport. And one person he must bring to the meeting, but he shouldn't have brought, is the man in charge of Beijing. All his is really his what we call is Xi Jinping's office. Right? They always have. You have the same, and also he's in charge of all the regiment that protect the whole Beijing. There's a whole regiment just always protected. This has been historically because it's the capital, so he's in charge of that. But he has to leave with Xi Jinping because Xi Jinping cannot speak without his prepared notes. Even talking to Putin, he needs backup. Xi Jinping is a very poorly educated person, great first education. So he needs and he reads wrong. He never reads number because he never studied mathematics. All right. You go through all his speech. There was never one number mentioned, one figure mentioned, because he would have spoken the wrong numbers. The people in those days, he was from very powerful family, and the kids, the male kids normally don't do well as the girls, So he does not understand mathematics. So all his reading, all his speech, or even temporary preparation or answer to Putin needs to prepare, and then he just read it. So he brought this thing, who is the head of his Xi Jinping's office in Beijing, which is huge, of course. And then he brought him. So that